Well, here we are. We've officially joined the ranks of the cliched in that we've started a podcast in a pandemic.
Yeah. We've been threatening to for a while, haven't we? So
Yeah, this has been on the cards in some form or another for about a year or so. But yeah, we've been planning this for too long,
yeah, far
which
too long.
is no indication as to how good it's going to be.
Yeah,
We are still completely winging it. I have written an introduction for us if you would like to hear it and give me your gut reaction.
yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, theys and gamers, welcome to the very first episode of Creme de la Creator, the podcast where two thoroughly unqualified guys from England bring to your attention the best creative talent the internet and the real world have to offer. My name's Grant Alexander. Joining me is my very good friend, Mr. Jake Lane.
Howdy, how we doing?
How was that?
That's very good. I like that. Yeah.
Hey, he likes that a lot.
I do. It almost sounds like we kind of know what we're doing.
See, this is what I didn't want to happen. I don't want to set that expectation that that we know what we're doing. So let's set the bar low.
Yeah.
Have a chat. Have a good time. Yeah. Tell everyone why we're here, and we'll see what everyone thinks.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Awesome.
So this podcast is kind of born of pretty much on a weekly basis. You and I share individuals like YouTubers, music, podcasters, that kind of thing. Pretty much, like I said, on a weekly basis. I think it's time that we structured this in a way where everyone can be in on the conversation.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, crikey, we've been friends now for what? Poor, this is going back.
Don't
a long time.
Don't give me a year.
A long time.
Long enough for me to have grey hairs.
Yeah, me too. I had those pointed out by my stepdad the other day, and I just pointed out he was jealous at the fact that I had hair where he didn't anymore on his head. So.
Well, yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and as people know, as time goes by, when you've been friends since school, we all grow up and go different ways. But I think through sharing different mediums of either say YouTubers or podcasts that we listen to, it's kind of underpinned our friendship, really, isn't it? As we have a lot of
definitely
common interests and kind of media things in terms of silly YouTube videos, creative stuff, and obviously Scrubs because that's awesome. But yeah.
Yes, I think that there's a side podcast on sitcoms that we need to do, but let's get this one sorted first.
Let's get some idea with what we're doing. I understand we have a theme tune. Do we have a theme tune? Are you going to sing it for us?
I'm not going to sing it. The listeners are going to hear it. Unfortunately, we're very cheap, and our podcasting equipment does not allow me to play the theme song in the episode. So it will be added in post-production, unfortunately. So you will just have to think of it in your mind. Another thing I wanted to kind of talk about was, that you mentioned that we have kind of similar tastes when it comes to a lot of media. But I think the other really cool thing to point out about what we're going to be doing is that while we have some similar interests, we also have very different backgrounds and very different tastes in things like music and comedy, kind of outside of the sitcom thing. We're going to be able to create some kind of cultural crossroads in the talent that we kind of showcase on this podcast. Do you think that's a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on, to be honest. It's definitely, it's not, I say same, but different, for want of a better phrase. As you say, I think the important thing is as well, we've both got, whilst we have got different tastes, we both appreciate the skill and the time that people take to make these things. It's one of the things that we both get quite angry about, isn't it? When people go to a film and then they come out and go, "Oh, that was crap," and you think, "Well, can we say crap? What's the scope of swear?" I mean,
no, it's actually something I meant to say to you beforehand, and I will leave this in. We are listed on Apple Podcasts as explicit, so you may swear. Obviously, don't
cool.
Treat it like a South Park script, but
farts, boobies, butt cracks.
See, you've demonetized us already.
Damn it! On the original point I was trying to make before I sidetrack myself. We both get quite cross when people come out and they just slate stuff with no real rationale. That was crap. Why? It's just because it was. It's like, well, what you really mean is you didn't really enjoy it, but you don't actually, well, the Star Wars fandom is a big one for that. The people that will get angry about it, and it's like,
I mean, it's a good counterpoint actually, because what we want to do with this is come together every week and go, hey, look at this cool individual or group. They're awesome. Look how talented they are. Look how much work they're putting into their passion projects. And, you should really pay attention to them and be grateful that we have platforms like YouTube and Spotify and SoundCloud where you can just put your work up out there, because certainly when we were growing up, that wasn't really a thing you could do.
No, not at all. I mean, I have very vague memories of people trying to find YouTube on the school internet, getting around the filters. But now it is somewhere where people can actually come celebrate their work. Some of the creators I've been sort of looking through and enjoy. It's interesting to read through the comments. Again, some of them positive, some of them negative. I think there's a difference between saying something negative and saying what you didn't like about something and why. Saying that was crap, that's a negative comment, and saying, oh, actually, I wasn't a big fan of that you're pinpointing, actually, I didn't like that. But then you say, well, what about the rest of it? Yeah, I like the rest of it. I just didn't like that.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to everything, and you can enjoy aspects of a thing, and you can enjoy something even if you think it's bad. But I think you live a happier life doing that, personally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of people can forget the fact that when people do things like they initially start podcasts and YouTube channels and things like that, they do it for fun. They do it because they enjoy it. It gives them a platform that they can actually, put this information out or put this content out there that they want to share with people as a way of expressing their creative urges, really. And I think to go out there and just slate that off the back of no other reason than I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, or I just like to be horrible to
That's
people,
exactly right.
is unfair.
Yeah, no, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head.
Unfortunately, there are some people that will be like that. But hey, I look forward to any of them approaching me on our comment section, because
we've now put ourselves out there for such ridicule. Please be nice to us. We actually are very sensitive.
Very, very sensitive.
I think it's time we got into it. We've been talking philosophical for nearly 10 minutes. So let's... do you want to go first with your creator, or would you like me to go first?
You go first. You said you got a lot of you put a lot of time into your research this week.
Oh, don't hype it up. That's unfair.
So
that's you're gonna
Google.
Yeah, Google, Wikipedia. No, so this creator is someone I've been following for a few months, as have many people. They've kind of blown up on YouTube and Spotify and TikTok. A really interesting story behind this. So the creator is called Corpse, or Corpse Husband, which is as edgy and emo as it sounds.
Yeah.
So Corpse is a completely anonymous, faceless YouTuber. So has never shown their face on camera, remains completely anonymous. Known for his deep voice and edgy music. I realize as I'm saying that I sound way older than I actually am. I really like the music. I just want to get this across in a neutral way, I guess. So I recently discovered Corpse playing Among Us. Have you heard of Among Us?
Yeah, Among Us. Yeah, the old.
Sure. You're familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
The murder mystery, basically.
Murder mystery game,
so he's been. That's exactly right. So he's been playing Among Us with the likes of Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, and other huge YouTube gaming channels, as well as, interestingly, and I'm going to butcher the name, US Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So the OAC herself has been playing Among Us with this group, which is actually incredibly entertaining.
Pretty awesome.
So Corpse suffers with chronic physical and mental illnesses, but what really struck me about his content creation is that he's always incredibly grateful and humble to his rapidly expanding fan base. They're really devoted, hardcore fans, and there's a lot of them. Now, I'm going to read you some stats from Social Blade so you can see just how quickly this guy has exploded onto the public, consciousness. So on his YouTube channel for gaming and stories in September 2020, he had 2.5 million views. Okay. Now, in October 2020, that shot up. Bear in mind, this is over a 4-week period.
Yeah.
39.5 million views.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Equally, his music channel, because that's where he's kind of gained a lot of traction with the likes of TikTok, a lot of people sampling his music. In September 2020, his YouTube music channel had 650,000 views. Very respectable. In October of this year, that was up to 30 million views.
Bloody hell.
Bloody hell indeed.
Yeah.
So like I say, what I really like about this guy is just how much care and time he puts into his fan base and how grateful and humble he is.
Yeah.
He's had a very difficult journey the last few years in content creation. I've watched quite a few interviews with him talking about his kind of struggle as a faceless YouTuber, leading that kind of double life, because no one in his personal life knows who he is online, and no one online knows his face, which I think is a really interesting and very fair, in like we've been talking about how harsh the internet can be. I think that's a really interesting and really fair way of conducting yourself online.
Yeah, just having that sort of mysterious alter ego that no one knows either or.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's exactly it. And Corpse has kind of lent into that. And his avatar is an emo kind of looking guy with. Have you ever seen the film Donnie Darko?
Oh yeah.
You know the rabbit from Donnie Darko.
Rabbit,
So it's like half an emo, like an emo fringe black hair anime character with a Donnie Darko half mask with one ear. And so it's very edgy, very emo. What we would call emo. I don't think that's the term for it these days. I think emo died out.
Emo was like...
God, we're old. So a really good example of how Corpse has used his influence, rapidly growing and newfound influence. In October of this year, have you heard of a YouTuber called Mr. Beast?
Mr. Beast, okay.
Yeah, he famously planted something like 20 million trees in a kind of fundraising thing. He does a lot of fundraising, he does a lot of money giveaways. Yeah, very, very nice chap. I think I will try and cover him on this podcast at some point.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did a Twitter campaign, I guess you'd call it. Oh, actually, all he did was tweet out saying the account that gets the most likes and retweets on this tweet wins $10,000 for charity. A huge amount of very influential groups and communities came together to try and beat the masses to the prize, and Corpse won. His fan base outpaced everyone, and when I say everyone, the close second was the fan base for the Korean music mega group BTS, who I presume.
Yeah.
Now, these guys are notoriously active on Twitter, and Corpse's followers beat them to the punch. Side note, Mr. Beast did end up giving another 10,000 away to the BTS community because they kind of got into a bipartisan race right towards the last few days, which was incredible to watch on Twitter. And if you go back to Corpse's Twitter, you'll see exactly how close that was. But what Corpse did was he split his $10,000 between the Lupus Foundation of America, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Which, awesome. Given his, it's really awesome. Given his history with chronic illness, both mentally and physically, and he said in his post that all of these illnesses have affected people in his life. So I think just you see it a lot with YouTubers, especially if they gain subscribers and go viral like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it goes to their head. I won't mention any names because that's unfair. But you know the kind of YouTuber I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That starts really, it's a vanity project for them. Whereas Corpse, I think he just loves interacting with people online. He tells really good, scary stories. He's got actually the deepest voice you will ever know, which is kind of his hook. So he's really cool to listen to. He makes great music. I'm actually going to share with you a link. This is the song E-Girls Are Ruining My Life, featuring Savage Gasp. It's currently, to date, had 68.5 million streams on Spotify and 24 million views on YouTube. So he's not hanging about.
I've got the link you've sent me, yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna pause here a minute because obviously we cannot play the music in the podcast for copyright reasons. But Jake, I want you to listen to the song, maybe like the first 30 seconds of the song, so you can get a gist of just how deep this guy's voice is.
I've pulled up YouTube now. I'm just gonna play it out through my headset now. That is pretty damn awesome.
I thought you might like it.
Freaking! I got way too far into. I could have just kept listening to
that. Yeah, so that is his most popular song and is very, very popular on TikTok. For me, and I'm going to show my age here, that sounds like exactly the kind of track that would be on the Need for Speed Most Wanted soundtrack.
Oh yes, Yes.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's Corpse. I thoroughly recommend checking out his YouTube channel and his Spotify. He does live stream games. He plays a lot of Among Us still with a lot of really cool people. And yeah, thoroughly recommend keeping an eye on him because he is growing in terms of his
Mm.
subscriber numbers, view counts, that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely well deserved and one to watch.
Well, he's got another subscriber now, so yeah, that's
That's what
awesome.
this is about.
Thank you very much for sharing that. That is pretty cool.
So that's my first creator. So Jake, what creator have you got for us this week?
So this week I have gone for a podcast that I listen to regularly. Now, you obviously know, but the listeners don't. For the benefit of the listeners, I am a massive sports fanatic.
Yes, this is where we differ. I know more about Quidditch than I do about football.
Yeah, that's fair. To be fair, Quidditch is better than football. There's less money in it, and people play for the game a bit more than the football do now. But that doesn't deter me from watching it. Um, yeah, massive sports fanatic. Whatever the sport is, I will watch it. Whether it's rugby or Himalayan yak racing, if it's on TV, then I'll probably be at some point watching it.
Actually, to be fair, I would watch Himalayan yak racing as well.
I feel like the obscure sports should definitely get more of a shout out. What was it? I was on
100%.
ESPN 8, the Ocho dodgeball, wasn't it? That's where that's get your copy of Obscure Sports Quarterly. So yeah, my creator this week is a podcast and this one of the reasons I love it so much as well is it's just some friends talking. I say just, it's more than that, but it started out as a couple of mates talking, and it's called Girls Ruck, and it's a couple of girls play for Hackney Rugby Club in London, and they're talking about their experiences in rugby, both as a female and specifically as black females.
Nice.
It's really interesting because I play rugby, and obviously my experiences as a guy are very different. In
Hmm.
terms of from getting into rugby, obviously are kind of nudged towards things like rugby and football and the stereotypical guy sports, as the girls
Hmm.
were nudged towards things like hockey and netball and the typical female sports. But these girls, Anne and Lemise, are their names. They're the kind of the two that began the podcast. They're talking about how they got into rugby, how they felt when they started it, and it goes on to talk about in a lot more detail from not just the social aspects of it, and the physical aspects, but also the emotional impact. So it covers
Hmm.
everything from how did you get into it and how has it impacted your life. So one of the presenters talked about how their relationships changed because it was kind of like rugby is such a big part of my life now. To their other half, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't, this is part of my life. If you're going to get with me, then you've got to accept that fact. And they talk about things that, again, I won't experience. So things like being a female, as for you'll know, females go through their menstrual cycle, and how does that impact rugby?
Oh wow, yeah. I haven't even considered that in sport. Obviously, as a guy, that sounds so insensitive. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, that's really interesting.
it really was fascinating because there's another player that goes on there. So these girls are recreational players. They play for the love of the game. And there's a girl who's very outspoken on Instagram. I'll give her a shout out. Simi Pam, her name is. She plays for Bristol Bears, local team. Whoop, whoop. And she's very outspoken about all kinds of issues, both racial, feminist, and everything like that. But is also a doctor, so they talk about how she combines playing semi-professional rugby with being a doctor full time at one of the hospitals. So it's a really kind of real world experience of it, from your grassroots local sport where people play for the fun of the game to someone that plays at the highest level of the game in the country, and
Hmm.
it all comes together in this kind of well, we're all here for the same reason, which is to share our love of the game, and it's really fascinating.
That's a really cool message.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, and the social commentary on it's fantastic as well. There was I don't know if you may have seen it actually. It was doing the rounds on social media quite a bit, and I think it was even in the news about when the Irish National Rugby Union released their new replica shirts. What they had
Yeah.
is the men's players modelling the men's shirts and some random female models modelling the female shirts. And
You linked me to this. It was unbelievable.
yeah, there was a huge backlash, as you can imagine.
Yeah, of course.
And some people saying, well, why weren't the female players who have worked hard to get to the top of their game, why weren't they in the pictures? I think they said that it was something to do with COVID. I think it was
Oh,
COVID
yeah,
was an
I'm sure it
excuse.
was.
Well, you managed to get the guy players in for this photo shoot. Yes, they're full time pros, but surely you could have got 3 or 4 of the female players in.
Yeah,
And it just kind of turned around. There was that kind of patriarchal undertone. The people making these
which is
decisions,
in a lot of sport, fortunately.
massively. And that was an episode that particularly stood out for me for a couple of reasons. One, Alana was actually on that episode of the pod, which is great. She played a good level of rugby when she was younger. So you had
Oh,
people
wow.
that played, your kind of social local level. You had Alana
Hmm.
who's played kind of like southwest of England level, and then you had Simi who is currently playing for Bristol in the women's Premier 15s. So you've got a whole spectrum of people, and they were talking about how it just feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth to them that this in sport you're still trying to have your femininity defined to you, and
Yeah, yeah, you shouldn't have to fight for your own representation.
exactly. And it was just really fascinating to hear how why can't I be treated as an equal on I play rugby and I'm a female. So what? Why aren't we encouraging more? There's a generation of young girls that could have seen so and so. Plays for Ireland. Here's our shirts. Awesome.
Yeah,
And women's sports
it's
gaining
that
a
real
lot.
disconnect, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And women's sports gaining a lot more traction now. The last few years it's been picking up with the successes of the England team, both,
Hmm.
football, rugby, cricket, all of those have been relatively successful. And they basically kind of looked and goes, that's a huge opportunity missed. That's just one particular episode, but
No, that sounds great. Please link me that episode, and I'll drop it in the description along with
I
a
will do.
couple of other links
I will link to the.
for listeners to go to.
Definitely. I think one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's talking about something I like, which is rugby, but it's also
Sure.
something that I've got no idea about. I am not a black female who plays rugby or
Yeah.
female. So it's kind of like an educational process for me as well,
No, absolutely.
yeah, it is. I like the way that I went back to the start, and I only discovered it because Alana was saying she was going to be on it. Who, they messaged her and said, because she posted something about rugby, and they said, oh, we're reaching out to female rugby players. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, really proactive community.
yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what I was, oh, okay, well, I'll go back and I don't want to listen to just the episode you're on. I want to listen to the whole thing from the start. So I went back and, as we're hoping some of you guys that are listening now might have done, gone back
Yes.
to the start and then start listening back through. It was just really, really interesting to kind of see how they've progressed from a couple of friends chewing the fat about things that they love to do to how it kind of got into the social commentary side of things, how their lives were impacted, the way people treat them
Hmm.
because of what they enjoyed doing. And yeah, how that's kind of, it sounds like a cliche, but how sport has changed their life, you know?
No,
Um,
no, not that's perfectly reasonable thing to say. No, I'll definitely check out that episode with Alana and go back through because that's like, I mean, I'm a straight white male with zero kind of perspective on black female sports people,
yeah,
so that's a complete culture shift for me. So I'm really interested in that. That sounds great.
yeah, it's a real fascinating. It's one of the things we kind of spoke about when we were talking about our podcast is that we wanted to also look upon things that, not as well as appreciating the creativity behind it, I suppose the message
The
or any
context.
context, any social commentary, something that we can
Mhm.
look at this and go, well, I can learn something from this, And I know
Oh yeah,
moving forward, I've in my list of creators I'm going to be bringing forward, there's some mental health bloggers in there and things like that I've really that have helped me and I've learned from, and I think it's so important by people sharing their creative urges and using the platforms available. It's kind of enabled me to learn something, certainly from that and from other things. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's great to be entertained and also take something from it too. So
And learn.
yeah, so that's my creator, basically. Black Girls Ruck is my first creator. There we go.
So, lastly, before we leave this episode here, I think every week we want to do a quick honourable mentions because we talk in depth about one creator each, but there's obviously more going on in the world than that. So, this week I wanted to just bring to everyone's attention the composer for all of the theme tunes for the episodes that you're listening to. His name is Ryan Shell, Schell. He's also known as Shell Shock on SoundCloud. I'll drop a link in the description. I just wanted to shout him out because I met him on Discord server for a podcast called Late Night. He's a very, very talented electronic music composer who I've really enjoyed working with on this. And he's been, Jake, you've met him through this process. He's been absolutely incredible. Is there anyone that you wanted to shout out very quickly?
I just want to echo what you're saying, really, kind of doing us a solid there and being a part of getting us up and running, It's, really, really awesome that you do that for us.
We'll endeavour to have him as a guest on the podcast very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So I mentioned just very quickly before we jumped on this recording that I wanted to pitch an idea for you on the podcast. And it relates to the next episode, to drop a little bit of a teaser. Now, for some context, my fiance and I have recently started playing D&D for the first time. I've been gifted several sets of D&D dice for Christmas. And I've been playing a lot of D&D, which is very much based on the roll of the dice. So what I wanted to pitch to you, Jake, is the concept of us having the medium of the creator that we select for the next episode being decided by the roll of a d6, or in layman's terms, a standard 6-sided dice.
I like that idea. Yeah, I like that idea.
Excellent. So let me explain the categories. If I roll a 1, we'll be talking about a podcast.
Yep.
2 is a musician. 3 is a social media influencer. 4, you'll talk about a YouTuber. If you roll a 5, it'll be a writer or blogger. And if you roll a 6, it'll be a wild card, so completely your choice.
Awesome.
Now, I'm going to drop a dice through my homemade dice tower. So hopefully this will catch on the microphone and be a little bit of D&D ASMR. I will roll the dice for you now. And you have a 3. So it is a social media influencer for you.
Awesome.
Does that?
Stuff.
Are you prepared for that?
I will be.
You will be. That is the right answer. I will roll for myself. And I have 4, so it's another YouTuber. Right.
I'm sure you'll manage.
I'm sure I will manage with my 180-something subscriptions on my YouTube account. I think we will find something to talk about. I think that's been a pretty successful first episode. What do you reckon?
Well, my mic's not cut out. My laptop's not on fire. I'm not sat here like Moss with just kind of looking at the rest of the room on fire. So I would say, since we set the bar low, that's been a roaring success.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thank you for taking the time to have a chat with me this week.
It's been a pleasure.
I think it only remains to be said to all the listeners, if you want to hear more, please subscribe, follow, comment, like, share, all of that interactive good stuff that makes algorithms happy.
All of the stuff.
Yeah, all of the stuff. And you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at CDLC Podcast, or you can email us at cdlcpodcast@gmail.com. And Happy New Year, everyone. We're recording this on New Year's Eve 2020. So if you're listening to this in the future, we're obviously still in the middle of a pandemic. England is on lockdown in various degrees of intensity. And if you are listening to this from the wasteland...
From the stacks.
From the stacks. Make sure your knives are sharp and your bullets are plentiful. And on that note, I think all that's left to say is goodbye, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, see you in the new year. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much. See you later.
Ta-da.